Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm gonna be doing some my initial thoughts on the upcoming GSP versus Nick Diaz fight that's gonna happen on Super Bowl weekend. It pretty much happened. If you know the whole Condit, Penn, Diaz, GSP thing. You know, GSP was originally supposed to fight Diaz, missed some press conferences. Condit's supposed to fight GSP. GSP got injured. Diaz ended up fighting BJ Penn. Diaz beat BJ Penn in the main event of UFC 137 in a 29-28, beating him up pretty bad. Called out GSP, claimed things like that he's not injured, but he's scared to fight him. Just seriously cuss him out a couple times. So it's really, it's a really interesting fight that's going to happen, tentatively scheduled for Super Bowl weekend. I'd like to touch up on Carlos Condit. Yeah, it sucks that he doesn't get his title shot anymore. The thing is, what they say, what's being said is that he said that he was okay with Diaz getting the title shot instead of him. I'm sure he was paid pretty handsomely or something. I have a hard time believing that a guy that was cited as crying when he found out that he got a title shot is just gonna be so so easygoing about giving a title shot to someone else. He's supposed to be fighting on that card, which would actually risk his title shot if he loses. And that's the thing. So hopefully he wins. If not, you can give, there's other fights in the welterweight division that's going to happen, like Hendricks, Fitch, and whatnot, but it sucks for Condit, but I'm going to be perfectly honest. I wanted to see, after UFC 137, I personally wanted to see GSP versus Diaz. The build up to this fight's going to be very interesting. Cesar Gracie talks a lot for Nick Diaz. When Nick Diaz talks, he just goes on these rants about anything. It's kind of funny. To me it's kind of funny. Some people get really annoyed by it, but it is pretty funny. There's a lot of things for fight week. I gotta wonder about press conferences and whatnot, because Diaz doesn't like going to press conferences and whatnot. So that should be very interesting too. They're just such opposite guys, though, man. I mean, it's just it's weird, they're just so polar opposites, just in personality, fighting style, and whatnot. Where Diaz is more, he's not very professional at times, and he just, he says some of the weirdest things at times. GSP is Mr. Professional, this guy's not going to miss press conferences and whatnot. And I really do feel that, Diaz being such a, this, what I call a perfect foil for GSP is, actually gets under GSP's skin. I think, GSP actually said, I'm going to beat this guy up. I mean, it's wow, GSP is usually pretty reserved, but with Diaz, apparently GSP wanted to fight him. So yeah, but yeah, I'd like to look more into the fight itself, though. One thing about one thing I'm reading a lot of times is oh yeah, GSP's gonna get beaten up on the feet. He wants to play it safe. So, but Diaz is so deadly on the ground too. It's a weird idea that a lot of people don't get. At the highest level, you almost never see a guy on the bottom submitting a guy who's on top. I mean, it doesn't happen, even the best guys, it doesn't happen with them. You know, like Jorgensen for the most part managed to keep Jeff Curran on his back. No, you know, even though Jeff Curran's like awesome at any position in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, the way I see it is GSP fights safe. Diaz does not fight safe at all. He really goes for it, puts on the pressure, endless cardio, great chin, great recovery, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Showed improved takedown defense against BJ Penn. But, you know, his ground game's really good. He's really good at getting back to his feet, and that's the thing. That's the thing. I can see GSP taking him down. I can't see Diaz sweeping him. I can't see him submitting him off his back. Come on, you know. It's so hard to do at the highest levels. Some people just don't get that idea. It's kind of like, oh well, GSP didn't even want to go to the ground with Jake Shields, so he's not going to want to go to the ground with Nick Diaz, who has really good jiu-jitsu. It's like, no. The safest place for GSP to be, if you consider that GSP fights safe and fights where he's most likely to win, he'll probably take it to the ground. I mean, let's look at some of Diaz's past wins. You know, KJ Noons, striker. Evangelista Cyborg, mainly a striker. Mario Saramsius, striker. Paul Daly, striker. BJ Penn, a little more well-rounded, but some of the best boxing. You know, but his striking is very strong. You know, it's like, it's this thing where, like, these guys have given Nick Diaz their best shot, and he just walks through it. He got dropped by Daly, of course, and even Zaramskis, but he fights through it and just puts, you know, works his game of just constant pressure. You know, constant pressure, unrelenting volume of punches. You know, the fact, you know, one thing that people are saying is like, oh yeah, GSP can beat him on the feet. You know, it's true. Nick Diaz leaves a lot of holes in his stand-up. The only problem is people that have exposed these holes, even like BJ Penn, can't do it for like a sustained amount of time though, because the fact of the matter is Diaz will take, you know, that punch to give 3 of his own, to give 5 of his own, you know, and that's the thing. So it's like, yeah, you know, one guy's connecting really well on him, but, you know, he just takes it and he'll give more back, and that's the thing. He mixes what people call pitter-patter punches with power shots. He's doing a really good job at that these days. That's why I think it's like when people say like, oh, GSP can probably beat him on his feet. In a sense, yes, I think he's like a more technical striker in the sense. You know, his technique is really good, but as far as like pressuring opponents like Diaz does, you know, like I said, I think GSP will land, but I think that it won't matter in the sense that like he'll land, Diaz will just return 3 or 4, you know. What GSP's got to do is not back up against a cage, because Diaz looks for that. A lot of people that you see, especially when they lose to Nick Diaz, it's usually against the cage. Paul Daly, I think Cyborg as well. He notices people going back, and then just keeps going and just pours it on against the cage. GSP, I would assume if he can do this, is that he doesn't step back and just goes for a takedown instead. And now, you know, going to the ground game, you know, like I said, Diaz is really good. He's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Same with GSP. GSP has better wrestling. I think it's kind of a given at this point to say that GSP can take Nick Diaz down. Yeah. Is Diaz going to catch something on GSP off his back? I really doubt it. I really doubt it. Can GSP keep him down? I really doubt that too. Diaz is shown to be really squirrely on the ground. This guy, you know, BJ Penn has his back. You know, he managed to get out of that. You know, he's very positionally aware of where he is on the ground and how to get back to his feet. But, you know, I can't see him really get on top of GSP. I can't see him submit from his back. You know, but I can see him get taken down. Honestly, the way I predict a fight to go is GSP probably I think he'll go a lot like the Thiago Alves fight. He'll stand with him, or like the Sarah fight was like this. He'll stand with him at times, but not for long periods of time. And he'll get the takedown, try and keep him down. Hopefully, you know, I don't know if he'll go for passing, if he'll pass guard or work ground and pound. I think GSP would be better served working ground and pound. Diaz has a really dangerous guard, of course. But once again, you know, at the highest level, it's so hard to see a guy get armbarred, you know, from the guy on the bottom, or like even triangle choke these days. You know, you just don't see it anymore. You know, so, and I see Diaz getting back to his feet, rinse and repeat. That's what I see. That's how I see the fight. They'll stay standing for short periods of time, takedown from GSP. You know, you know, you can't let Diaz build a rhythm, you know, so it's, and GSP's rhythm, you know, it's pretty much he when it seems like he's going to stand, you know, he goes for a takedown. When it looks like he's going to take you down, he'll stand with you. You know, I see it just like that. It's pretty much he's going to stand with him for a while. Maybe he'll get a couple shots in. Diaz will probably try and get some of his shots in. GSP goes for a takedown. GSP goes for the clinch. You know, if he gets a takedown, he's not going to hold him down. But I can see him taking them down over and over and over again. That's really how I see the fight. Anything else, it's really, you know, it sounds peculiar to me to say, like, oh, GSP can beat him on the feet when Paul Daly couldn't, when BJ Penn couldn't, when so many guys threw their best shots at this guy, you know, especially a guy like Daly, who has that like one-punch knockout power, you know, couldn't do it. You know, it's just one of those things. Yes, I can see GSP outstriking him. Well, no, not outstriking him. Being more of a technical fighter in a sense. Just that he's more defensively sound. His form's a little better, you know, than Diaz. Diaz is kind of erect. He leaves his front leg out there. You know, guys like Cyborg manage to kick his front leg a lot. You know, Diaz, I guess it just isn't really he's not the most technically sound guy in the stand-up. And yes, GSP can expose the hole. The problem is exposing the hole doesn't do much. I think it's almost like because Diaz will counter what GSP gives. That's really how I see the fight, you know, in the stand-up. On the ground, yes, Diaz is really good. It's just that, once again, I can't imagine him getting an armbar or triangle choke from his back. GSP's really good at chop control, but I can see Diaz get back to his feet. So yeah, that's pretty much how I see the fight. It's GSP standing for a little while, getting takedown, Diaz scrambles back to his feet, rinse and repeat. That's how I see the fight going to decision for George St. Pierre. I like Nick Diaz. I think the build up to the fight is going to be really interesting. I think Diaz is a really good foil for GSP. Just so different. He's a rebel. You know, he's not always the most professional guy. He's not always the most respected or respectable guy, or guy that shows respect to people at times. He's just kind of socially awkward. I like the guy. I'm a big Nick Diaz fan, which is kind of funny because I don't like Nate Diaz. But so you know, that's just it's gonna be really interesting. I still think it's a really interesting fight. I think it's one fight where GSP is really gonna have to work. You know, I'm not saying he doesn't work, but he really can't coast at any point of the fight. He's always, because one other thing is that Diaz is going to always be attacking, even from his back. He throws punches from his back. He'll always scramble. He'll have a knee blocking the any type of pass, like he did against BJ. Like BJ couldn't really get full side mount because Diaz had a knee in there, and blocked the path. He's always, GSP should always be working. I think GSP, if he stands for long periods of time, I think he will get hit. I can see him just going for the takedown if he does get hit, though. So yeah, that's pretty much how I see GSP versus Diaz going. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you very much.